Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. We have a great docket, so let's get to it. First, Lori Vallow. Why is Judge Boyce not acting on Lori Hellis' motions? Next, an update on the Ohio Make My Day case. Families crying foul. The man of interest in the Delphi matters. He's uncomfortable in jail. We have a story about, don't you know who I am? I'm rather important. Yeah, a state legislature thinks he's a big deal. Well, he was a sex offender after all. A case in England where people are saying, what's the problem? And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it. All right, aficionados, you know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, hit that notification bell so that you get updates of when we put up new content or go live. And remember, you can always listen to us anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. So let's go ahead and open the docket for September 2nd, 2022. First, Lori Vallow. Judge Boyce, why are you not ruling on Lori Hellis' motions? Now, for those who don't recall, Lori Hellis, she's been a guest on the show. She's a retired attorney. She is a member of the press. She's written books, and she's writing a book about the Lori Vallow Chad Daybell case. And so to do that, she's taken a deep dive. She actually relocated there to Idaho, so she's where the action is. And she just wants access to the court files. So she filed several motions with the court saying, Judge, you're not following the rules. You can't just seal these hearings or these documents without the appropriate hearings. And Lori Hellis, said she's trying to intervene, and the judge says there's no interveners under criminal procedure. There isn't. It's a civil term, but guess what? People file all the time, i.e. the press. All you have to do is look at the pleadings in Mar-a-Lago. It was the press. What were they referred to as? Interveners, bottom line. So the judge is making excuses. It's also my understanding that the final set of filings apparently has been made, but the judge refuses to rule on them in any way. He actually refuses to acknowledge that they've been filed. Therefore, he doesn't have to rule on them. Come on. Now, people, I'm telling you, I like to have faith in our judicial system. I do. But it's things like this that make you lose faith in the judicial system completely. So, Judge, if you've received the motions, just rule on them. And if you're going to deny them, rule on them. But rule on them in public so that people can know what is going on. Losing faith in that case out there. Next on the docket, James Rail. Remember him? He's the young man that was shot in Ohio. And he'd gone over to his girlfriend's house, ex-girlfriend's house. Well, things didn't go so well. Let's go ahead and roll that tape. Yep, there you can see Mr. Rail shot 3 times by Michael Duckrow after he showed up unannounced to their home on July 31st in Sydney, Ohio. Now, Mr. Rail had dated Duckrow's daughter, Allison, previously, but the pair broke up about a year and a half ago before this incident. And now Rail's stricken sister, Jessica Colbert, has shared her fury and anguish. And according to her, from my knowledge, she says, the family has connections to the sheriff's department and there's an extreme bias. Apparently, Allie worked as a dispatcher for the office. Allie's the girlfriend. And Duckrow is friends with the sheriff, according to Mr. Rail's sister. So therefore, Mr. Rail's family is now calling for a full investigation of the death, claiming that the police only spent 2 hours at the crime scene after his death. The family believes that Mr. Rail could have gone there to the property to be there for Allison to talk to her after getting in touch with her the night before. Now, the sister, Jessica, said, it bothers us because that's our family member and there wasn't an investigation. We have no idea how it could have possibly gone to what it went to within a few minutes that he was there. Well, let's summarize. We saw the video. Mr. Rail shows up unannounced to his ex-girlfriend's house. He tries to knock on the door. They tell him to go away, and then he tries to break in, pushing against the door. Okay? That's burglary. That's burglary. That's a felony. And under Ohio law, guess what? You can shoot somebody at that point. Now, it's a tragic situation. I get it, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Rail shouldn't have been there, and he shouldn't have gone into the house uninvited. He was asked to leave, and he begins to try to push his way into the house, as you can see. The dad of the ex shoots Mr. Rail. Now, I get it that the family for Mr. Rail is upset. Their family member is dead. They think that there's something nefarious going on here with the police department. 2 hours for investigation? I've seen them do it in a heck of a lot less, I assure you of that. And so there's nothing that says the make my day law, stand your ground, castle doctrine, whatever you call it in your particular state, didn't apply in this particular situation. The police looked at it. The grand jury, the members of the community said, no crime, no bill. No one's going to be indicted. It's that simple. And there's nothing in the make my day law that says, well, the being able to protect yourself in your own home doesn't apply to ex-boyfriends. Heck, I think some people would say it should apply more so for ex-boyfriends. Okay? So it is on the video of his Mr. Rail trying to get in the house. Oh, did I mention it's on video? That's right. How long did you think how long should they have investigated it? Are you kidding me? Let me tell you a story. I was in court the other day on a homicide case. Okay? And the dead guy, he's not a good guy, but everybody wants to act like the dead guy is some great guy. He isn't, all right? And everybody shows up with their little T-shirts on with the dead guy's face, and the family shows up, and this guy was running the streets in the middle of the night, going out doing things that he shouldn't want to do, and things didn't turn out. But everybody thinks he's an angel now because he's dead. Give me a break, okay? Mr. Rail and to his family, I'm sorry for your loss. But if I mentioned to you, it was on video and he was there unannounced, that's right. Mr. Rail is the one that put himself in this situation. He is the one that created the facts that basically wound him up deceased on his ex-girlfriend's driveway after being shot, after basically trying to break into the house. Come on. Now, family members, if you have some proof that it was a flawed investigation, then present the proof. You just don't get to go out there and throw stones and say, oh, she worked as a dispatcher. The young lady worked as a dispatcher, and the dad knows the sheriff. It's a small town. Everybody knows the sheriff. Give me a break, okay? Sorry for your loss, but how about a little acceptance of responsibility for your brother's actions? It was your brother who created the facts that brought us all together to discuss this matter. Had he not gone over there uninvited, he may still be alive. I'm sorry for your loss, but sometimes people just need to be told the truth. Next, the Delphi guy. The guy that's kind of a suspect, guess what? He's a little uncomfortable in jail. That's right, the alleged pedophile suspect in the Delphi murder is complaining behind bars about having a hard time demanding cash for interviews and requesting graphic sexual favors from women who are able to make contact with him. Now, this Keegan Klein guy, he's 28. He's in custody in charge of child pornography that are unrelated to the murders of Abigail Williams and Libby German, two friends who were murdered in 2017 after going for a walk on a old train line. Now, for years, the case was unsolved, and investigators are pursuing the theory that the pair were talking with Klein, a known catfish who used the photos of a male model to lure young girls into meeting him for sex. He was living not far from where the girls' bodies were found in February of 2017, and in a flurry of activity this week, police in Indiana requested custody of Klein from Miami, where he was being held. They also searched a river near his home. Now, it's unclear what the police were looking for, but the police have never disclosed exactly how the girls died, but a search warrant revealed previously that they had lost a large amount of blood. Now, Klein is demanding cash for interviews from jail and is asking women to write him for sexual favors. He neither denies his involvement nor has made any confessions, and instead complained to them that he was or is complaining that he's having a hard time and he's hungry. He's having a hard enough time, and he's been advised by his lawyer not to answer questions from anyone. However, he later acquiesced and spoke with a podcast and responded basically saying, well, how many questions do you want to ask? I'll answer some, but not for free. Everybody's making money off my name, and I'm sitting here hungry with nothing. Ultimately, he demanded $300 for his commissary and an additional $100 to be put on his jail phone to facilitate texts. Keegan is still being held in Miami, Ohio on the charges of child pornography, and he's never been charged in connection with Libby and Abby's murder, which remain unsolved for the last 5 years. Last year, it was revealed that he was the one behind the Instagram catfish account that used the name Anthony Schatz. Indiana State Police believed Abby and Libby communicated with the account not long before they died, and police have always held back key pieces of information about how the girls died in an effort to protect their investigation into finding the real killer. They have never revealed how the girls died, nor have they told the full content of the video filmed by the girls on their phone in the moments before they were killed. The only piece of detail from that video that has emerged is that the man walking towards them whispered down the hill to them as he approached. Indiana police have not stated what prompted them to search the river over the last 2 weeks, when the last time the girls communicated with Klein was either.
Like many Americans, we got a dog during the pandemic. My quarantine dog, Miss Winnie the Bulldog. Now, Miss Winnie has grown accustomed to being around us all the time. When we were leaving the house, Winnie would have extreme anxiety, so we decided to look for natural products to help with her anxiety. We looked for the highest quality CBD treats, and we were not satisfied, and neither was Winnie. So we created a high-quality CBD product that absorbs faster and provides the required results faster. Baked in Colorado CBD treats and beverage enhancers are made with nanotechnology. The nanotechnology makes the CBD extraction more pure, also allows for Baked in Colorado products to work faster. Baked in Colorado products can help reduce your pet's anxiety, ease joint pain, and help with your dog's skin problems. Go to our online store and see what Baked in Colorado product is best for your dog. When you order at bakedincolorado.com, enter code WINNIE and receive 15% off your first order. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee. If your dog does not experience the desired results in 30 days, return the product and we will refund your money. No questions asked.
Remember that scene from Anchorman when Ron Burgundy says, "Don't you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal." Well, that's what this Kansas state legislator is trying to argue legislative immunity. So a Kansas gubernatorial hopeful was stopped for speeding, declared to a cop that the Constitution of Kansas permits him to race to and from work without impediment. Dennis Pyle, remember that name, ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Pyle thinks he's kind of a big deal. He's currently a state senator, and he made the brazen declaration after he was pulled over for speeding on April 2nd in Kansas by a Brown County sheriff's officer. The 61-year-old can be heard advising the officer that he should not be impeded while traveling to and from the Capitol during the legislative session. Now, the former Republican, who's now running for governor as an independent, demanded that the officer read the state constitution during their exchange. Pyle received a verbal warning for his speeding, which is understood to have taken place around 2 a.m. in the early morning hours, obviously. It's unclear how far over the speed limit he was traveling at the time that he was stopped, but in the footage, you can hear him saying to the highway patrol he knows the rules very well, before bemoaning how tired he was from working all day, long day at the Capitol. He can be heard telling the officer, "I'm trying to get home. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's on the road. I've said this before, Sheriff. I told the deputy sheriff years ago, asked if they had read it, and they hadn't. They need to teach that." Now, although I am in favor of everyone reading the Constitution, at least if you're going to interpret it, you should probably get it correct. Well, the officer replied, "No, I can't say that I'm familiar with this particular section that the senator quizzed him on, this very obscure law." And then the senator continued and said, "There's nobody on the road. I'm just trying to get home. I'm tired. And why are you trying to impede me from getting home? Anyway, I understand you're doing your job, but I would advise you read the Constitution." People tell me to read the Constitution all the time. I want everybody to read it. Now, just for clarification, Section 22 of Article 2 of the Kansas Constitution states that lawmakers are not to be subject to the service of any civil process during the session or in going to or returning from the place of the meeting of the legislature. Civil process, which means you can't be sued for civil cases for harassment purposes, because, they used to do that back in the day. So they said, hey, when you're traveling on your old horse in your wagon, you can't be impeded to get there. Doesn't give you carte blanche to break the law, good senator. Now, apparently the people in Kansas proposed a resolution to change this section to the state's constitution, but it did not pass. Now, speaking to the Kansas press, Mr. Pyle said there is no excuse for speeding. He added, "I am not above the law by any means, and I'd like to say I pay the tickets when I get them." Well, unless, of course, you can intimidate the officer not to give them to you, right, Senator? A representative from Senator Pyle's office did not respond. immediately. Really? 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 That's right. Typical situation, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care if it's 2 a.m., whatever. You're a public official. You got to do it better and cleaner than everybody else and not try to pull the old card, the old Pelosi card. Don't you know? Oh, let me find my Police Protective Association card here. Yeah, here it is. Look at that. It's right here in front of my license. And this Senator Pyle as well. Hopefully the people of Kansas do not elect him governor, because clearly he thinks he is entitled. You know, remember the good old days when you didn't even have to worry about a term limit because people knew they were only going to go do one term and come back because that's the way it was? I just have very little respect for career politicians that think they're entitled to it and that they think that that is their job. No, it was supposed to be a part-time job for 3 months out of the year. And then you go back and you work in your community. Senator Pyle, just resign now, please. Next, just trying to help a couple of kids out. A former Ohio school superintendent fired 5 years ago after investigators found a suspected crack pipe and crack in his vehicle during a traffic stop, was arrested in West Virginia this week for allegedly kidnapping 2 children earlier in the month. Now, William Morrison has been charged with 2 counts of kidnapping in the incident. This incident allegedly occurred in Huntington, West Virginia, where Morrison now lives. It's alleged that Mr. Morrison pulled up alongside a 9-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl on that date and offered them each $20 each to babysit his 4-year-old. The child got inside his vehicle and rode along until Morrison stopped at an intersection and asked the boy to get out and check out a tire. When he did, Morrison drove off with the girl still inside, leaving the boy crying and screaming by the side of the road. Inside Morrison's vehicle, the girl began to cry and begged Mr. Morrison to let her out. Instead, he offered her $100 to shut up. Shortly afterwards, the girl opened a passenger door and left the vehicle. Police said that neither child was physically injured, but I'm sure emotionally they're forever scarred. Investigators gathered vehicle and suspect information and executed 2 search warrants, one at Mr. Morrison's Huntington address where he was arrested and another at an apartment in Barboursville, West Virginia. Now, Mr. Morrison was arrested after the searches, and investigators said there is possibility of more charges. Mr. Morrison was the superintendent of the Hamilton Local School District in Ohio in 2017 when, as I said, the police officer made a traffic stop and found a crack pipe and some suspected crack. He was fired from his job and pled guilty to an offense involving possession of counterfeit controlled substances. He was sentenced to 180 days in jail on all 4 cases, but those were suspended. What can you say, ladies and gentlemen? They're there for the kids. They're doing it for the children. I'm curious as to what's the situation is if there really was a 4-year-old girl that he wanted babysat. Somehow I don't think there was. And somehow I think if they searched that house, they'd probably find, well, something similar to this next story. A convicted British pedophile is dead after police say another man attacked him in his home, causing a fatal head injury. Now, according to police, 77-year-old John Coxon was found unresponsive in his Stonehouse home earlier this year. A few months later, he died from his injuries in March. And then on Thursday, police rearrested a 64-year-old man and charged him with murder. The unnamed suspect was arrested for causing grievous bodily harm and was subsequently released. He's now back in custody as authorities continue the investigation. Now, over the coming days, there will be a police presence at Mr. Coxon's address in Stonewall while further searches take place there. Now, Mr. Coxon, identifies as a convicted sex offender, was arrested in 2009 for having inappropriate images of children. He was arrested again in 2016 for the same crime, and then again in 2017 for communicating with a 7-year-old child while walking. In 2016, Mr. Coxon was found with over 400 child inappropriate images on his computer. A neighbor told the police that she isn't upset at Coxon's death and glad he's no longer in the neighborhood where people would routinely break his windows and throw eggs at his house. His house was targeted by the kids all the time. They would come along and egg it or smash the windows, she said. I'm not sad. It's a relief. I had children if I had to bring up my children in the streets, I would always reluctant to allow them to play out front. Another neighbor said, if he was killed, then fair play, adding that the alleged killer would likely be hailed as a hero on the inside. And it just goes to show you, all lives are equal, but apparently some lives are worth a little bit more. That's what they said. No, you can't go around killing people and just because they're registered sex offenders. Vigilante justice is wrong, okay? It's wrong. Next, dumb criminal of the day. Put this in the you can't make this stuff up category, all right? A Florida woman is behind bars on a felony narcotics charge after she allegedly approached a cop and asked, quote, "Can you arrest me? I have drugs on me," end quote. That's according to the affidavit, ladies and gentlemen. Police were handling a call Tuesday night outside of a St. Petersburg's bar when Chelsea Leahy reportedly requested to be busted by a corporal by the sheriff's office. Investigators say Leahy removed 2 small baggies from her pockets and handed them to police, saying that they contained methamphetamine. A field test on the substance returned a positive result for methamphetamine, and guess what? It was, in fact, methamphetamine, and she was arrested. And, of course, Miss Leahy showed an indication of drug influence when she was talking to the police. Now, she was, in fact, arrested for possession of a controlled substance, and cops say that the meth weighed about 2 grams. Miss Leahy is in the county jail with a $750 bond. Her previous arrests include convictions for narcotics possession, theft, tampering with a motor vehicle, forgery, and leaving the scene of an accident. Now she can add possession of a Schedule II controlled substance. Congratulations, Miss Leahy. You are a dumb criminal of the week. It kind of sums up the whole week so far. All right, I want to thank everybody for watching this week. I want to thank everyone watching for today. We'll have a wrap-up of all the big stories here for you on Saturday. Enjoy the long weekend, and we'll see you next week on Crime Talk.